Thy will be done in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Welcome back to Thy Will Be Done podcast. I'm your host, Theodore Ricciardi, and I'm here with Reynet. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, introduce yourself, man. Who are you? What do you do?
So, I'm the creator of Junket, Hidden Worlds Revealed, and it's a comic book. I'm the illustrator, the writer, and I'm trying to make something that goes up against a Marvel DC, make something brand new, and yeah, stands the test of time.
Sweet, that's awesome. I love creatives, man. I'm a creative myself. I want to be a screenwriter, so that's awesome.
That's dope.
So let's just start out with this is a question I love to ask people that I meet is, what's a Bible verse that pushes you to your limits? What's a verse that you always bring up when you're in your lows or when you're slacking off?
Yeah, man. I actually have a little Christ bracelet here. I don't keep watches or anything. I just look down and I'm like, oh, it's time for the Lord. And it has John 3:16, right? For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. And I think that that's beautiful to always keep in mind, that it's not just about God's mercy or God's grace. It's about self-sacrifice, and it's about becoming more than what we are.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
Sweet. For me, I don't know. I have a bunch. I think about this question for myself. I have way too many answers, but at the moment it's probably Matthew 10:38. Whoever does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, why are you Christian, man? When did you start following Christ? And if you have a story of how some people have crazy stories, some people it's a really slow over time. So what was it like for you, man?
For me personally, it was a slow kind of discovery. I was always interested in mythology, theology, all that stuff was always interesting because when I was coming up as a kid, my grandparents were the ones who primarily raised me, and we had this big portrait of Christ on the wall, and it was always beside all of the family pictures and everything. So to me, it was just as if he was a part of the family. They weren't super devout, but they kind of instilled that hope, that faith from an early age. And struggling with bad influences and stuff when I was in high school and middle school and growing up, it kind of led me to realize that I don't really want to just kind of have a normal or average life. I wanted to do something more. I'd been drawing ever since I was a little kid, and watching the Disney movies like Pinocchio and Bambi and stuff like that always was something so beautiful about a character like Geppetto or something praying for his little son, his little wooden boy that he created, right? He was a carpenter, to come to life. And to me, I just wanted to see if I could inspire someone, just as the movies that inspired me. But yeah.
You said Jesus was always part of the family. I've never heard someone really say that. People kind of say we're part of the family of Christ. What does that mean, man? We're part of his family. Let's see, for you.
Well, he was always this. Looking back, it's kind of eerie when you think about it. He's always in every corner. He's always watching, no matter what. And it's also kind of comforting and kind of beautiful. There was always a photo of a portrait of him, always in every household I ever went to when I was growing up. So it was, just reassuring to know that he was almost quietly a part of the story, quietly a part of the family. We all acknowledged it, prayed and stuff, but it wasn't ever super overtly in our face. It was always very kind of peaceful to know that we believed in something bigger than just ourselves. So yeah.
I love that, man. It's some people might say it's weird, the kind of he's always watching sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then you realize he's always watching with good intentions and good hope for us. And it's if you're doing something wrong, he's watching, not in a weird way, but in a way to no, my son, don't do that. just veer a little bit back on the right path. Or if you're doing something right, it's kind of when you're talking to the ghost in the corner of the room, look what I did. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. So what about right now, man? Where you at with Christ right now?
Currently it's a very interesting place, right? Because the more I've learned, I wasn't ever super Christian, right? I still haven't been baptized or any of that. But I was interested in kind of telling a story, right? I've always been interested in writing. So when I began my college, university, I kind of was led astray with pride and arrogance as well. And funny enough, it feels as though like God took me away from that to put me somewhere better. And the university shut down. Everything went bankrupt. The job I had acquired there, it all went. It felt like the rug was pulled from under me, right? And when everything kind of happened like that, when all the bad stuff arrives, you have to realize that there is only God, really. That's only the only thing we have. And I was right back in square one. I was right here in this room again, and I had my screen, my drawing tablet, and all I had was Bible next to me and my art, my talent that he had bestowed upon me. So I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well do it for myself and do it for him. And immediately I started instilling more, less like Greek mythology and stuff, and more actual like Christianity and theology into it. And I realized that those truths are universal. So it's been an up and down road. We're all kind of, like you said, we're led to be carrying our cross. We're meant to be carrying that, and it's not an easy burden to bear.
That's beautiful, man. Okay.
Thank you.
So you said like you struggled with pride and arrogance before everything got pulled out from under you. What do you mean? Like, did you think you were like better than everyone, or were you just like totally in your own world and like it was all about you?
Originally the university I had was literally in downtown Miami, so it was just everyone I knew there was either trying to step on people's heads or toes to like go and become better, or there was the business people, and they were always trying to just do startups and all these entrepreneurs, and the culture there is very cutthroat, right? So I wasn't arrogant in the sense of like, oh, I know I'm better than you, but I'm just so ambitious as a person, and I see opportunities and I'm quick to take them. So people were kind of like, they weren't exactly appreciative of that stuff, and I definitely was a little arrogant, right? Definitely was a little bit feeling myself at that point in time, and I was the top of my class and all that stuff, and I realized that's not what God is calling me for. It's not about being the best. It's not about all that. It's about impacting the people who you meet, and it's about helping them grow. Instead of stepping on their heads, it's how do you lift them up. So when you're once you're slowly climbing up along with them.
I love that, because I kind of struggle with the whole, like sometimes I'm a little too much in my own world, and I kind of look down on people in a way that's definitely not right.
Yeah, man.
And so like, how did you get past that?
I mean, I kind of came to the realization that we're all climbing up the same ladder, right? We either step on people's hands while we're climbing up, or we help them get up once we're out, And I think it's not really about, the way I look at it, it's not really about how to improve or how to overcome, but it's about how to help regardless of what you get out of it. It's just being good for the sake of it, because nothing else matters, because like we were talking about earlier, God's always watching, right? So I think it's good to just keep going, keep climbing, and to like help others along the way. That's the only real way to look at it. I stopped seeking people's attention. I stopped seeking people's their approval, and I started realizing, well, what would make the 4-year-old version of me happy, right? The little toddler version of myself, what would make him happy? And it wasn't all the boastful pride and all that. It wasn't any of the flashy stuff. It was just ultimately a good story and something that sparks the imagination, And I think every good story, you could always trace it back to the Bible, no matter what, whether it's mythology, all of it. Even like Prometheus, right? Originally, that's what I was trying to adapt. It's this guy who comes down from Olympus with fire. He brings it to the people and he gives them life. And then he's literally tied up on a cliffside and with vultures pecking at his side. And I realized, this is just an early interpretation of what Christ represents. He's literally giving his life for the people, giving that the Holy Spirit, the fire. And funny enough, in that mythology, Hercules, the son of God, literally helps and saves Prometheus. So then there's this again, there's this strange kind of trinity within everything. So I started going straight to the source, and I started thinking about how can I better represent these stories for the whole world, Yeah.
I'm glad that you noticed that, because I've been seeing a lot of stuff on Instagram every once in a while about how like all these other stories, the Greek mythology, the Roman mythology, so much of it is all just God working through everyone, like before Christ or after him, people who didn't know him, who weren't going to know him until after they died, working through them to share the gospel. And I think that's just awesome. And like I look out on life sometimes and I'm like, dang, God's vision of the world is so much bigger than mine.
Yeah,
I can only see my one world, and he sees everything, and he's like sewed it all together.
100%, bro. I think it's the I don't know if it was the Prince of Egypt movie, the animated one, where it said that you can't see what tapestry is being built when you're only focusing on the small cloths, right? So I mean, from our point of view, we're like ants. To us, we're focusing on how to eat, survive, and all that. We're looking at the small scale stuff, but he has already so much more planned, right? He has a bigger plan, a bigger vision than we do. So
that's beautiful. I think if I remember, I'll probably remember a lot of things from this conversation, but if I remember when you said that without God there's nothing, that he is everything. And I think I just thought about that. I'm just going to remember that just going forward. But
yeah, man.
An interesting question that I have is, and I think a lot of Christians, including myself sometimes, don't really know how to answer this. Are you truly confident in your salvation?
I think it's almost a choice, really. I forget which Bible verse it is, really, but it was the parable of the son who returns home. There's the two brothers and the son who returns home for the first time, and it's basically, why would the one who was always doing bad things, why would the one who's always forgetful and late and tardied and all that stuff, who was out partying, why does that son return home and get a banquet, while the one who's been working and who's been basically slaving away for his father, why does that one get the small shillings, basically? And I think it's not really about what we get out of it. It's not really about exactly how we it's not really about the way that we are perceived by others, and it's not whether or not if we're saved. It's about a choice that we make, and it's to always return to God, no matter how late you are, no matter how far gone you think you are. There's always a chance. There's always a door open. There's always that moment of hesitation where you get to make. It's like a multiple choice. You always see the two options before you, right before you make that decision. So yeah,
that's beautiful. Yeah, I think this episode isn't about me, but my thoughts is, yeah, it's when I'm not confident in my salvation, it's not because of him, it's because of me. It's because like I did something so wrong, or I've been doing something so wrong for so long and justifying it that I'm like, there's just no way. Like, how could I possibly go to heaven? But it's like I've been given this opportunity to realize that and to change and to be better and to serve him in everything. And it's like just every moment that I'm alive is another opportunity to go closer to him.
100%, yeah, man. It's almost like the thief on the cross, right? That's probably the most succinct version of that story that I was mentioning. It's Christ has two men on both sides. He has the one who is saying like, "Oh, if you really are God, help us get off this cross, right? Make life easier for us. Help us escape and keep doing what we were doing." Or the one who he blessed was the one who was like, "Lord, I know that you are God, and all I ask is that when we go to heaven, that I am able to see you there." And Jesus literally promised to him right there and then. I think that the man the thief on the cross was appointed as like one of the first saints or something in in Christianity. So I think it's kind of fascinating to see that man wasn't baptized. He didn't give away tithing to the church. He didn't do any of that stuff on Sundays, but he was just willing to believe no matter what it was, and God still forgave him and loved him and accepted him with open arms. So
yeah, that's beautiful, man. I love the thief on the cross, and sometimes I'm like, he's watching me right now. He's like, Theo, what are you doing, man? So I just want to talk about prayer real quick. Some people, a lot of people pray very differently. Some
Right.
people it's like just reading straight out of the Bible. Some people it's just like saying the Lord's Prayer, saying the prayer of serenity. Some people it's just like a conversation. So how do you do it?
Um, I think, since he instructed it to be a very intimate thing, to like, close the door behind you and go into the closet and pray, right? I don't like hide away, but I do, like in the old cartoons there, people would pray right before going to bed. So I just get on my knees and I think about all of the things that went wrong, that went right, and I thank him for all of it. I thank him for the failures, I thank him for the success, because it's all a lesson, and I'm always grateful no matter what, because he's always delivered on everything I've prayed for, even though I'm not worthy of it. And yeah, I mostly do the Lord's Prayer, and I always thank him for my friends and my family, foremost, because it's kind of difficult to do something alone, right? Writing the book is just me single-handedly, literally just praying that it works and hoping that people are, begin to turn their heads towards me, and hopefully through the book and through the work that I do, that I'm able to inspire them and to lead them back to the source, lead them back to God and Christ. And I pray for that stuff literally every day, that, he gives me the audience worthy, that I'm able to become worthy of speaking to, that I'm able to preach his name from the mountaintops, and that no matter what, to always point in his direction. And I pray for that literally every day. It's sometimes it gets frustrating, like we said, we always fall away, and sometimes it's a little easier to pray, but I think it's just that small bit of effort, it really goes a long way, because I think what he wants the most from us is just that we tried just that little bit more. I think that helps a lot further along than we realize.
Yeah, I think that little extra bit is, it's like, I think that's sometimes I think to myself, like, it's kind of, when I'm in the gym, it's like just one more rep. Like, you can just do one more. I guess, God kind of talks to us like that sometimes. It's just, well, you're so close. Like, you're so close.
Yeah, man, it's that unseen work, it's the small amount that we do behind the closed doors and no one else gets to see, but we know that God sees the effort that we're putting into it, and he always delivers on everything that we do. So we literally get what we receive. We receive what we give, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to trip you up here, but then what would you say when people ask, and I ask myself this all the time, is like, why are the wicked allowed to prosper so much? I mean, we're all wicked people, but those who, actively reject Christ, who hate him, who build their whole platform on destroying Christ and his vision. And so what would you say, like, when you confronted with that question of, like, how are they so successful? How come their movies are making so much money and they're living in such a great mansion and stuff?
I mean, I don't know, this might be a hot take, right? And I think those kinds of people will always exist no matter what. There's always going to be the doubters, the naysayers, the people who say you're crazy for believing in this invisible thing, like go sell out and go step on people's toes and go and be bigger and better than them, push people aside and all that. That's always going to be in style or whatever. It's always going to be popular, but I don't think that is the way I want to be remembered, or how Christ would want us to live. And it's about just, there's always going to be evil people in the world, but it's not up for us to decide whether or not they're worthy of receiving what they've been given, because we don't really know what's going on with their lives behind closed doors. I used to always envy celebrities and rappers and whatever, just social media people all the time, because I was like, oh man, I'm doing this and this, and they've only done a little dance and they're going viral global, right? They're going international. It's kind of, it seems unfair or whatever, but it's about how you must remember that, again, this is a hot take, right? I don't think that the quote unquote the God of this world, of this plane, is a good man. I still think that the snake lives throughout the cities. I think that once we stepped away from God in the garden, that the thorns grew, and Christ himself said that there will always be people who will go against me, and if you follow me, that is part of taking up the cross, that there will be people who persecute you indefinitely. I mean, it's a shame that we see that even in today's modern times, with public speakers and presidents and people who just, some of them, they just seem like good people, and they get taken out for their beliefs and for their bold claims. And I don't think that the world will ever change. I think society has remained the same ever since like Roman times. It's all Babylon, right? At the end of the day. And I think that the prince of this world is not the one we should follow. And I think that the one we should follow is the one that we have within us, So, yeah, again, I don't know if that's a little bit.
I love that, man. That was not a hot take. I mean, if it was, that was a good hot take, dude. Yeah, it's you're right. I think it's been the pursuit ever since humans came to the earth. It's been the pursuit of wealth and sex and pleasure, just constant for thousands and thousands of years. Yeah. And people wonder why it seems like the world's just getting worse and worse. And you try and explain it to them, and they're like, no, this stuff is good. I love chasing this stuff. I want more money. I want more sex. I want, it's like, do you ever, like, how about y'all just step back for a second and think, like, if there is an afterlife, like, how do you want to spend it? And if it was required of you, let's just say hypothetically, if it was required of you to give up all your money, all your cars, your status, your power, your girls, if it was required of you to give all that up, but you could live for eternity in happiness, would you do it? And I think some people might actually say no.
Yeah, I mean, it goes right back to the question, right? I think it's the most epic story within the Bible. I actually adapted it in my comic because it was just so cool. I made like a little 2-page version of it, but it's the devil in the desert. It's literally God and the devil, literally Jesus and the devil being confronted immediately, and it's God in human form. So he's like, well, let's see if the deal I give every human, let's see if it works on him too. Obviously it didn't, but we're always going to be offered that. It's like, oh, well, he has control over all the cities, all the armies, all of the women, all the power, all the money, all the influence. I think symbolism goes a long way, and we don't realize how powerful it really is. We all subconsciously kind of follow symbols and things. There's no coincidence that the symbol for Lamborghini, there's a statue of it in the in Wall Street, even here in Miami. The golden calf still lives, and it's literally there. Like, you can literally search up golden Lamborghini symbol logo, and it's the golden calf. All these things that they're flashy and all that. It's all the same thing. It's all the same regurgitated story. So when I try to look for inspiration or even guidance, the Bible is literally the first and foremost place for all of that. Like, it's so crucial that it literally was the foundation for the Constitution, stuff like that, like the 10 Commandments and all that. But yeah, I mean, there's always those principalities. They're going to be there. The devil's going to be working against us 24/7. If we choose him, we may get those things that we want, but we don't actually need them. That's the thing. I choose Jesus because even though it's suffering, even though it's difficult, he gives us what we need. But even though it's not what
that's kind of like one of the most beautiful things I've heard in like months, bro. Dang, that is beautiful. Oh, thank my you so much. Gosh, because you're so right. He gives us what we want, not what we need. And were you ever a kid and you were like, or younger, in your early stages of Christianity, and you were like praying for Satan? I used to pray for him. Sometimes I still do. I'm like, maybe he can somehow, I know he won't, but it's like, if he could repent, he's reached the point where it's not even a possibility for him to think about it anymore. Right. Like, but it's you ever think about that? Like, what if Satan could repent? Like, I don't feel bad for the guy, but I kind of do. Because he's living this life of, for eternity of, I'm just going to make as many people have a horrible life as I have forever.
Yeah, he's trying to drag us all down with him.
My creator as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think Satan is the character with the most pathos, right? In terms of literature, he's the one who's the most heroic, seemingly, the most pathetic, but also miserable. And you get to relate to him as a human because we always feel as though things are unjust or all that. When I first in college, when I first really started getting the how do I say, I got bit by the bug. I really was on fire for Jesus. I wanted to learn as much as possible. And like we spoke earlier, I thought that God writes not only through Bible, but through history, right? And through literature and through everything. He's always there behind the curtains, right? And so I started researching stuff like the Divine Comedy and Paradise Lost. And you get to see the devil as this three-headed beast trapped in ice, right? And he's eating the heads of betrayers. And I'm like, that's crazy. And then you read Paradise Lost and he's this beautiful guy who's just falling and he's misunderstood and all that. So it's, sometimes I do feel as though, praying to the physical, I guess the principalities and the devils and stuff, I pray that my friends get saved every day, because I don't think the devil is powerful in any way, realistically. I know that evil does exist. There's a lot of evidence for that, in history. Massacres, genocide, evil does definitely exist, but I think it lives through us the same way that God does, right? I believe in an invisible God. We can't see him physically. Same goes for the devil. We can't see good or bad or good or evil physically, but we live it out through our actions and through our decisions, And I pray that my friends start doing more of the good choices to help themselves and their families and the world around them, rather than to choose ignorance and to forget everything. So yeah, I pray that everyone gets saved. I always pray for peace on the earth and all that, because I hate wars. It's so pointless. And I think the spiritual wars within us is even more important, to pray against the bad.
Yeah, you're right. Ultimately, Satan has no real power. It's all he does is mimic. So he mimics love, makes it look like lust. He mimics greatness and glory to make it look like, a Lambo and a mansion and girls sitting on your lap. And it's just, he has no real power. He can't do anything with it.
Yeah, just empty.
At the end of the day, you left with nothing. But dude, this kind of leads me to my next question. You just seem naturally like you'd be a fantastic evangelizer. Like you'd be so good at sharing your faith. So How do you share your faith? Is it like a very one-on-one personal thing? Do you kind of let your faith speak for itself? Do you see the people go out and talk to 20 people at a time? What's it like?
So I personally, I used to work at a church for a while, and it was beautiful to help people, and we had things for kids in summer camp and all that to evangelize the youth and the next generation and all that kind of stuff. It's always nice. But I think that theology it's been so corrupted recently, right? That it seems worse than it is. It seems like a cult. It seems like something negative. Whereas when I was being raised, again, it was these simple, small little symbols within kids' movies and things. And I think that if things are too overtly Catholic or Christian, it's too aggressive, right? So I personally don't want to hit anyone over the head with Christ or with Christianity. I do want to always open up with the symbol of Christ on the cross. Every book that I've made always has that and a little verse from the Bible. So I always show allegiance, to who I'm working with. But ultimately, I think that I'm trying to, I'm trying to do the opposite of what evil does. Again, the Lamborghini symbols and the literal bull statue on Wall Street. These symbols are within us, within our culture every day. There's snakes on every album cover nowadays. There's apples and all that stuff. It's always there. It's all repeating symbolism. But the way that I want to help evangelize the world or help point back to God is through just kind of telling them a good story, right? A good parable. I think that the same way that a bird sings or that a dog barks, I think that we, as humans, we communicate through stories, right? We build sentences. It's a point from A to B. Everything is always language. It's always stories. And I think that's why Jesus never wrote anything, and he spoke in parables. So I think that's really what's important. It's not about, he never literally said, hey, if you're bad, you'll go to hell, and if you're good, you'll go to heaven. He always said a mustard seed and little small things that make sense to everyone. And I think that that's the best way to go about it. The way I always put it is instead of being a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? I'm trying to be a sheep in wolf's clothing. So I'm trying to my stuff to look super mainstream and super normal, and but little do they know that hidden within it is the words and the messages of Christ, right? It's just a readaptation in a different way that's more tasteful, right? You know.
Dude, you're a poet, man.
Thank
What are you doing here, bro? You should be making millions a day off this kind of stuff. What are you doing here?
Thank you, bro.
Oh man. So speaking of like the poetry and the writing and the language, you know, I'm a writer too, but I want to talk a little about like your career, because that's obviously extremely important. And you know, even though we're only here temporarily, we need to make a living, and we all need to find something that we love doing for the rest of our lives. So,
right.
You just talked about there was a kind of a story of Jesus and Satan in the desert in your books, so in your comics. So do you take like kind of the stories of the Bible and kind of give the characters new names, or do you like how do him and his teachings kind of bleed into your work? Is it like really natural?
I guess it kind of comes naturally because I'm so my brain is so saturated with the things I love. I literally have all of the old classical poems and epics, like the Iliad, the Odyssey, like I said, Paradise Lost, Divine Comedy, and all of these like super old but like amazing works that they've never been adapted into like mainstream media. And I'm always thinking like, why isn't that the case? So my approach to it is, how do I rebrand the Gospels? How do I get rid of the deserts and the theology aspects? How do I get rid of the overt repeated story, and how do I keep the core of it and retell it, repackage it for a modern age? It's kind of like when you go back and you see like the Walt Disney stuff, you see like the original Snow White, Pinocchio, and all that was super dark, and it really wasn't for kids. It was like a weird social commentary for the time, whatever. And yeah. I think we've got to. I'm trying to see if I can, like just Disneyfy the gospel in a way that's more approachable, but not specifically the gospel, but those old stories as well, like Paradise Lost and Divine Comedy. Like how do you have a story where characters go and descend into hell, and how do you Disneyfy that, right? It's very difficult. So it's for all ages though, because it's something different. I don't know if you've seen the cartoon Over the Garden Wall, right? But they kind of like touched into those themes a little bit, right? Instead of it being hell, it was a dark forest and stuff like that. And I think that my characters, they're involved in a dark forest, and they dive through the enchanted world and stuff. And there's always a little bit of those symbols in there. But I'm completely, like you said, I'm changing names, I'm changing all of it, but I'm keeping the core of it, right? So for example, the main character, I guess you could kind of connect him to Abraham, right? Who's like in his older age, and he's frustrated with his life, and God calls him to go forth on an adventure, right? So my character, his name's Oscar, right? He's going through his midlife crisis. He decides to quit his job for a life of action and adventure. And I think that's more resonant nowadays with people, because we're not billionaires, we're not orphans or anything. So it's kind of difficult to connect with that. And I don't think superpowers are necessary to tell a good story. So I'm just trying to see how I can readapt those things and repurpose them for a new world, right? A new fairy tale, basically. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it's you were talking about earlier, like you don't want to shove it down people's throats. And when I was drafting my first screenplay for a short film, it's actually, I took Jesus and Satan in the desert, and I gave Satan like a personality. Like I made him a very attractive character,
right?
Not to uphold that value, but because that's probably how he was. He probably didn't show up to Jesus as a red monster with thorns. He was tempting. He was attractive. He was, everything he had looked handsome. And I think it's very fun to remain faithful to God, but to take this incredible book that he's worked through with the Holy Spirit through all the authors to create and turn it into something that's like, it's sort of yours.
Yeah.
It's like not like stealing it from the Bible, but you're kind of making it yours.
Yeah, you're repurposing the idea, the core values, right? The again, the symbolism and the themes, right? These things are timeless. It's repeated through history thousands of times through literally every character. And I think there's three ways to really view the Bible. There's historical, there's literal, and then there is legend, right? And I think that if we look at it from a legend standpoint, Christ is not just the fulfillment of the Hebrew Bible, but he is literally a real life Hercules, a real life Samson. All these things are real life Achilles. All of these things just culminated into one figure, Prometheus and all that. So it's beautiful to see how once you start to really unpackage the core values of it, it's timeless, and it's just been repeated 1,000 times. Like there was a post I saw recently that people were finally coming to the realization that Batman is technically a Christ figure in his story.
Yep.
He's a symbol.
Yep, the author confirmed it.
He's a symbol, right? He's he stands for something bigger than himself, and in his way, he brings them through fear and all that. But there's also the writer of Lord of the Rings, who's also confirmed that every symbol that he wrote about, every fairy tale and legend that he created was basically a readaptation, right? The ring of power was simply just sin, and the burden of carrying that sin and letting go of it is the whole story, right? There's the chosen king, I think it's Aragorn or whatever. So stuff like that, there's always these small things. I think Harry Potter as well, when he ascended with Dumbledore, right? The old wizard man, I think they literally go to the King's Cross. Like that's the train station. Like, I mean,
yep.
It's kind of, once you start looking for it, it's really everywhere. And might as well just keep doing what the predecessors have done and just keep building upon what the Lord has blessed us with. It's just timeless writing.
Yes, dude, I'm so glad other people notice. Lord of the Rings is basically everything in there is a Christian. Everything is a Christian symbol.
Yeah,
if you just look at it's incredible, especially Boromir's death and him and Aragorn and Sam and Frodo. It's beautiful. And then Harry Potter, I made a whole episode on it. With him and Dumbledore at the cross, and with Harry, needing to be willing to die, and the splitting of your soul because you're doing evil things, which is exactly what sin does. It's beautiful. So if writing ends up being, sounds like it's going to be, you seem like you're going to be a very successful person. You're a fantastic person, by the way.
Thank you so much.
A very, very wonderful guy. So you're going to build a legacy out of this comics, future comics, and maybe future kids or anything like that. What do you want your legacy to be? When people think of your name, either when you're in your old age or when you're dead, what do you want them to think?
I think legacy is kind of the only reason to kind of choose to be an artist, because most artists throughout history have received very little claim to fame or any of that stuff while they were living, and always whenever they pass, it's beautiful amounts of love and appreciation, the same way we're talking about Lord of the Rings, right? I think I want to leave something that people can talk about for ages. I want to be pointed as an example of, hey, you can do this too, and that anything is possible, right? If you do it for the right reasons, you can do anything. And I just want to inspire magic, again, the kind of that wholesome, beautiful kind of magic that I mean is from Disney movies and all the early Marvel comics, and just spark the imagination of the youth again. I feel like the world's become so mundane and repetitive. I just want to create something for people to look forward to, right? To look far into the future.
Looking forward to stuff. I think that's something that's severely lacking. I don't see much in the world that I have to look forward to. I mean, when I was a kid, I always looked forward to the movie that was coming out in the theater, to the new Marvel movie that was coming out, to the weekend, because I could hang out with my brothers and looking forward to stuff. Call me a total geek, all right, but I love Frozen. I love that movie. It is just, call me a total geek, but it's creative, and it's original, and it's the writers were, you could clearly tell they were trying, and they made, it was made for kids, but
Yeah, man.
it's like there's something just beautiful. You can feel an artist's soul when they work through when they really put their heart and their soul into their work. You can feel it and you can tell.
To modern
I
classics.
think that's just.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think, like you said, it's about kind of putting that little bit of myself within the work that I do. I just hope that all of the inspiration, the hope, the dreams, right? It comes through. It comes true through the people who read it. I want people to be inspired through the work, because I don't really care about fame or being rich or any of that stuff. Yeah, all the flashy stuff is cool, but once it's gone, what do you really have? Once you get old, none of it really matters. And what does matter is the lives that you help to impact with your work, right? I was literally researching the creator of Charlie Brown and Snoopy. He had a terrible life, super sad man. But the work that he inspired is just beautiful. His stuff is always on the Macy's Day Parade, a huge Snoopy and all that. It's on love letters and postcards with Hallmark stuff. To me, it's not really just about merchandising, but it's about when you say legacy, I just imagine my younger self, my 4-year-old self, looking again to the future with hope, with inspiration. Whereas nowadays, everything's kind of bleak. It's all dark and kind of moody. I don't appreciate the modern content that's coming out. I think it's severely lacking in the gospel, and it's severely lacking in intention, right? My work, again, even if it doesn't become all of that, to me, it already has succeeded because the small amount of people who I have helped is so much more crucial and important to me than anything else. So I think, yeah, man, just pointing back to Christ and anything that we do is super important because there's nothing else without him,
Yeah, let him. Jesus said to do righteous deeds, not so that you will be glorified, but so that your Father in heaven will be glorified through you. And it's the creativity and the like you said, the intention that used to go into making things, even if they really had not much to do with the gospel, still lifted people up and inspired them. That's actually perfect, going right back to the beginning of this conversation. So as we kind of wrap this up, I think, unfortunately, I'm not in my youth anymore. I'm only 19, but I don't feel that young. But why do you think so many people like our age, 19, 20, 25, 30, are turning to Christ?
It's a good question. I think that every culture and every kind of civilization throughout history always goes through waves of movements, and I think we're now seeing the beginning of that wave, or maybe the peak of that wave. I think we're all just kind of lost and misguided. All of the people our age they're all just kind of lost. When I was 19, I was just graduated high school and COVID had hit, so everything shut down. Life as I knew it was gone, right? So I didn't get to enjoy any of like the end of the year stuff. I barely graduated on a stage. It was literally like a parking lot. So all of the people who grew up and had that same story, instead of using the bad things that happened in their life as inspiration and motivation, as energy, they end up using it as an excuse to keep going further into the bad, right? To keep descending down into the bad choices and the addictions and stuff. So I think it's a shame how far we've come, as a society. Now that everything's so readily at our fingertips, now is when we're even more distant to our loved ones. Now it's when we're more distant to everyone. Like I went to the college, my university after, right? And it just felt so isolating to be around people. Right now we need connection more than ever. And I think reconnecting with God, plugging back into the morals that built the entire civilization that we know, I think that's important. I think we have to, reintegrate ourselves into that wave. And I think it's been, again, we haven't been hit over the head with it. We haven't been, it's not been shoved down our throats. We see all these cool like crusaders and stuff online, all these cool reels in black and white. It's like gym motivation or life motivational speeches, and it's just a cool crusader in the snow or whatever. Like that kind of imagery is needed because it's just awesome. And I don't want to just think about old white dudes in robes up in like Italy when I think about Christ. I want to see the man who rose from the dead, right? Who literally it's just crazy. He moves a tomb. He stands on water. He splits the ocean. All these things are all through God, and I think it's the most just amazing imagery. And I think the youth has resonated with that kind of coolness to it. I think it's a lot different than what our parents or our grandparents grew up on. They were probably just more just doctrine and tradition. And yeah, man, I think nowadays it's like being a Christian now. It's like counterculture. It's like being the rebel. Even in the Superman movie, it's like it's the new punk rock. It's literally being a good person is the new punk rock. So I think man, who knows? I think it's a good thing. We're moving in the right direction. We're less selfish now. We're more dedicated to finding the truth and to speaking our truth, no matter at what cost. That's beautiful. So hopefully it works.
I'm glad there's someone out there who has some hope for our generation. It's a very hopeless mindset among a lot of people, and I think that's one of the things that leads people most away from him is just a sense of hopelessness. Like, yeah, what's the point? Like, it doesn't matter. And the other thing you talked about is using your experiences with suffering to bring you closer to him. And I think that used to be a much more widely practiced thing, and a very standard was you suffer. Good. Okay, good. You know what? Good. Use it. It'll bring you closer to God. It'll make you realize how good you have it. It'll make you realize that how much worse other people have it, and it makes you stronger. And I think people are starting to realize that. It's like, even if I do suffer, maybe it's not evil just because I suffer. Suffering isn't inherently evil. It's
a lesson, yeah. I think stuff online, everything's so readily available now. People either tend to choose more distraction, more content, or they choose to let's see if I can, put some work in and see if I could just focus and lock in and do what I want to do. Not just for me, but for others, right? So I could help my family out of poverty or help my friends out of depression, or whatever it is that you can do to help inspire people is literally just one step in the right direction. And I think that's such a gorgeous sentiment that, God literally chose to suffer for humanity. God came down, right? The creator of the game logged in, and he literally chose to show us, you know what I mean? And he chose to die on the cross, man. It's kind of wild when you realize it. As a story, it doesn't make any sense. But I think the more we dive deeper into the mysteries of heaven and God's mysteries, I think it's just super beautiful, and it transcends language. It's literally, it's gorgeous. But yeah, man.
That's beautiful. I think that's a pretty good place to come to an ending. So the last thing I want to ask is what do you want to leave people with at the end of this episode? They remember anything from you coming on here, what do you want them to remember?
I want people to remember that no matter how far gone you think you've gone, I think no matter how deep into hell you think you've walked, I want you to know that literally the path to paradise begins in hell. The only way out is through, and you're not alone. God is with you. No matter what it is you want to do or achieve, if you ask Him with good intention, it will come true, no matter what price. You have to be willing to go above and beyond and really try your hardest. Even if it doesn't work, something bigger is in the horizon. God has something bigger planned for everyone. Just keep praying, keep focusing on Jesus, and everything will be okay. So upward and onwards. Amen.
Awesome. That's beautiful, man. Thank you so much for coming on, dude. You're my first guest, and definitely the best one so far. But dude, thank you so much, man.
God bless, bro.
Yeah, and everyone, I'll link his Instagram down in the description. Go check out his comments. Go check out his Instagram. Follow my Instagram at thatwillbedone.podcast. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. That will be done.